Alright, Nadia.
Hi.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Lessons with Med.
Awesome.
Yay!
Is that Achilles playing guitar?
Could be.
Unreleased art.
Oh, look at these layers of all these arts that no one's ever gonna see because I'm gonna delete them. Alright, Nadia.
It's too late in my head now.
Okay, what is this supposed to be? I mean, like, it's great, but, like, what's the deal here?
There are two characters, epic fight thing, yeah.
I'm gonna talk about lighting and value
Okay.
contrast and control, and then we'll talk about epicness, dynamic action, and all that stuff. So first thing is, what are we looking at, right? It's like we got epic character left, another character right. But if we look at it in black and white, like, where does our eye go? It just kind of just goes here.
Yeah, I don't like the other character.
It's fine, but
I'm like,
compositionally, and you actually don't have to go there. But my point is, if you have a given composition, if you tell your audience to just look there, it kind of just it's just, hey, look there. But you could create a gesture or a rhythm or a line of action by introducing other points of interest elsewhere of contrast that'll create a rhythm. That's what we call a kind of visual path or focal point read. So we could literally do that by brighter version on a separate layer. Hold Alt, click the mask button, and just before we even light it, just circle areas like that could create a rhythm. Like, okay, well, we definitely want to look there. Maybe you want to look at the reflection here to kind of have this nice river witch reflection sign thing. And maybe something over here so that it kind of does this thing. It could go either way, right? So just by painting on this layer and making that brighter, oops, and then there, and maybe something there, it kind of introduces this idea of multiple focal points. Now, it doesn't really work right now because it's just random value structures, but if we kind of tone it down a bit here, isolate that a bit, maybe stretch that because it's like a street, maybe the light is hitting it differently, maybe there's a cast shadow here, it's more obvious. Let's put him in darkness. But the implication of light coming up from the top there will sort of help that composition. Right, so both ideas work. Like, if you really want to make this the only focal point, that's fine. But doing it like this allows the compositional flow to start here and then work our way through the piece without really making the other character brighter. So the other thing about, let's say, value, what's next to value, what's after value, that's going to be color. So you got blue character here, kind of magenta purple character here. I like your color choices, especially with these accents. Orange works really great on blue there. And we got, I don't know, stitches that are orange, I don't know. It is, however, missing blush on both of them. But let's just say, like, hey, we gotta send this in to the client, or hey, we gotta submit this to your team of your indie game, and you have like 10 minutes or 5 minutes to just give it some effects that really make
blush.
it. No, not the blush.
I would 100% do that though.
I know.
It'd be like, oh my, Nadia.
Well, I mean, in a fighting game that you make, yeah, I mean, that would be like the when you win, you kind of just like stand there and blush and do the ooh, whatever. Anyway, to each their own. So let's say we have like 1 minute left. My thoughts are, hey, let's harmonize the colors. Let's bring it all together. Let's make a color statement for the entire piece. And it's like an alleyway. Could be cyberpunk. Could be dystopian. Each has its own color statement. Now, if we make a new layer, set it to overlay, we could pick any of these colors. And if we just do that and fill up the whole screen, it's a little too much, but what happens now is this color statement of magenta bleeds into every pixel. And now that kind of harmonizes and glues everything together. We just lower the opacity there. Now suddenly it feels like it's all, in the same piece. Now if we turn it off and look at the comparison, kind of gray, right? So we pull up this magenta one, smack that Control U button for hue satch, and you move this along and discover different color palettes. So we get, all these potential combinations of colors. Personally, I like the magenta, so I'll keep that. And once you're here, you could flip it and whatnot. Maybe add some more, details. Pull up some reference of city scenes and alleyways, and what's actually here. Are there going to be, like venting ducts and like more signs or newspapers on the ground? So design-wise, you could start adding things like that. So that's the values in terms of focal points and composition. It's about color harmony. Let's talk about the dynamism. Let's go ahead and flatten this. If we have our composition, forget our painting. This is just a new piece. And we have elements that are, that's our horizon line. Sure, makes sense. And we got our buildings, right? It has its place to have things at a right angle, having perfect verticals and perfect horizontals. Right angle meaning 90 degrees. However, whenever something is perfectly horizontal or vertical, it feels static. There's no motion, there's no dynamism. It doesn't invite us to trip into the piece, because when you're running or falling over, your sense of the horizon is rotated, it's tilted, and it's kind of exciting to be running or flying or whatever, and you kind of see the world in a different way. So if we take those same linear elements and rotate them, you now have something a bit more dynamic. Now if we just start over and like introduce another idea, like we know that verticals close to 90 degrees are static and boring, we can just start with diagonals, and kind of create a shape design of something where all the angles are somehow not horizontal and not vertical. Now these could be following perspective, they could just be following a punch line, as in, not like a joke, but like, where somebody's being hit. It could be spotlights, it doesn't matter. Visually, as long as the abstraction of whatever's in your painting has this quality, it'll feel more dynamic than this. Now the reason I say that is because when we go back to this, let's take a look at what the verticals are. So although they're at a slight perspective, going diagonally, the piece feels like it's being robbed of its potential because all of these are just kind of straight up, which, maybe this is a screenshot for a fighting game, makes sense. But as a promotional piece, what you want to do is consider other options. Now, the one diagonals that are working is the fact that they're angled at each other. That's great, and it's a great start. However, the one problem here is that they're perfectly symmetrical. So if we just flip that, they're at the same angle, right? And if you notice in my sketch here, there's a lot of angles happening, and there's really not too much symmetry. We could say that we have an angled shape here, a big triangle, but if I put one over here, I wouldn't make it the same shape. I could, and there's a place for that, but I will probably angle it like this, smaller or maybe even bigger, but just to avoid that, avoid them being the same size, because then otherwise they'd compete with each other for attention, which maybe that's your intent, and that's fine. But how would I fix this? Well, I would take the whole thing. Let's bring that up in opacity. Probably just rotate, towards a certain bias. Like maybe this guy's your favorite, or girl, whatever that is. And, already by doing that, actually I think this would be a better angle. It feels more like, oh, you know, something exciting is happening here. We're turning our heads, looking at the scene, and it's tilted, and it's really interesting. So then I would take this character, and probably tilt them in another way, but also change the size. So the difficulty here is like how much of the character design are we going to sacrifice? Because if we make it bigger, then we're just going to get cropped, which is fine. But or we could keep that character the same and then make this one more in the foreground.
You do it so fast.
Ooh, arigatou gozaimasu. Anyway, so again, they're the same size.
It's so scary. It went forward.
And it's like you could just take that character and just see what happens when you make them in the foreground. Already, it feels more dynamic. You would have to change something in perspective here, like having the... I mean, it actually already kind of feels in perspective, so it works. But now it's telling us the story of conflict, where you have an element of something here in perspective pointing at that, or pointing this way. So it's like, you know, whereas originally they're on the same plane, on a 2D plane, like a fighting game, and that works as a concept. Here, what we're doing is saying they're on visually a different plane from our point of view. It's like we took the camera, pulled it back, and we told the actor on the right to come closer to the camera, and to have blue guy stay where they are. You know, this Sonic the Hedgehog character, and and it's like now we're starting to talk about dynamics. So we got the tilt happening. What else can we do to really make it kaplow, right? And so, you know, you got epic, you know, shooting magic, whatever that is. Like earlier we talked about those angles and triangles. What if this whole thing was a really big blast? And I know we're sacrificing that sign there, but we could put it somewhere else.
No.
But this helps create a silhouette against this character, but also reintroduces those dynamics of triangles. And then we could slap some color dodge. I don't know, something like that. But already, now when we zoom out, it just feels kind of like it's in that splash art category where things are pulling us in to view the experience. You could rotate it even more. I might even rotate this character like they're flying in. Now, I know I'm going overboard and completely changing the...
I wouldn't believe that that's like a flashlight.
Hey, is that you, Bobby?
No.
So I know we killed a lot of what was originally there, but the idea is going forward, if you do another piece, these are the elements to keep in mind: diagonals, angles, dynamics, silhouetting, enough contrast to make things stand out, and all that stuff. But that's my 2 cents. Any questions?
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing? I am
I'm okay.
caffeinated.
Hyper mad.
Yeah, that's rad, by the way. Can you do me next? Me.
Okay, you got your can you post the JPEG?
Do I? Oh, really? Okay.
What, you want me to take a screenshot?
No, hold
Whoa.
on. Let me
Wait, Matt, look at my screen.
No, sorry. Wait, what?
Oh, that's
Look at your
PNG.
screen.
Same thing.
Look at my screen.
Wait. Oh my god! I love it. Wait,
Yay.
it's animated,
No, it's gonna be.
dude.
I'm still working on that.
D&D
part.
commission.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I have more of these to do.
Dude, you're so good. Good job.
Thank you. It's gonna take forever though.
By the way, I recorded that crit. Do I have your permission to share that publicly?
I mean, yeah, because you said blush. And you added a blush in there.
Did you actually record that crit?
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Mhm.
Whoa.
It's a really good crit though.
You're
Thanks,
gonna
man.
be like, this is what you can get out of my class, but it'll be better. I swear.
Well, I mean, if I offer a class with critiques, but I mean,
Would you?
I sent you the JPEG thing.
Oh, thanks.
Thing.
It's still recording, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Oh.
Just mute everything that I'm saying.
Nah, dude,
We don't exist.
your voice must be heard.
No.
Okay. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's looking good. Yeah, and you come from a traditional painting background, so you have a natural sense of brushwork, lighting, flow, gesture composition. The first thing that comes to mind is proportion, though. And you know, this might be your stylized ratio of proportion, which is completely fine. But there's some things that I personally would tweak to sort of, I don't know, balance out certain areas. So let's see. You know, if we look at how long the leg is and compare it to how long the arm is, it's really short and stubby. And it's not to say that you have to make the arm as long as the leg, but I think a little bit longer, or you make the legs overall smaller. And one thing that I kind of noticed in certain stylized things, like more anime or video game kind of stuff, is that the head is usually bigger or equal to the size of the rib cage. In this case, the head's way smaller, and so if we take the rib cage, right, it's about that size, and I'm gonna push it too far just to see how it is, and we make it a little bit bigger and say, okay, let's test that as our head size, and you know, not have her like shrugging, maybe push it up a little bit. It'll actually balance out the visuals of how this is so out of proportion, so you can kind of keep it the same way. So let's take that head. Let's actually make that full opacity and just make a white layer and lower the opacity of that. So if we get that head to match this, from the top of her head to the chin, oh, hold shift. Okay, let's turn that off. Suddenly it just feels a little bit more balanced, at least for me. And I think this arm on the left actually is long enough, it's fine, but the one on the right feels a bit like it's stubby, which is fine if that's the character design, you know, like Finding Nemo, having that tiny flipper.
Finding Nemo's little fin.
Yeah.
She looks more like a Nurse Jenny now, I feel.
Like what?
Especially with the hat. Nurse Jenny from Pokemon.
Oh, dude, I'm a boomer. I don't even.
Yeah, no, I gathered.
Wow, dude. Anyway, so let's see how that looks over here on the side. Yeah, I think it helps. So proportionally, I think that's what I would do. And visually, as a shape design, it helps, you know, have the big, medium, small. So you got the big shape happening down here, kind of like a dress, and then we have kind of like another triangle there. Got a small shape there, then a medium shape again. Now,
Yeah.
if this shape was too small, it kind of wouldn't have that nice negative space to dip in and go back up. So, you know, visually, I think that's what I would do. So that's proportion. Let's talk about, actually, let's do the same for her over here. Yeah, feels more balanced now. So let's talk about color, painting, and all that stuff. It feels like we get the sense that there's a light coming from here. Let's use the airbrush. All right, so the light is coming from up here. If that's the case, you also have another light coming over here, you know, causing this rim light, which is fine. Let's make that smaller so it's less intense. But the thing is, they're equally lit, and if both lights are equally powerful, it kind of diminishes a focal point. Like here's what I kind of want to see. Let's just go ahead and flatten this. Let's make a bright version and a darker version. Mask it off. And then we can say, okay, anything facing this light, any shape that's angled towards that, we're going to let the stronger light hit it. And just by doing that, automatically it kind of gives us a sense that that light is really, really there. Kind of like going into a room and turning on a light. Right, now you zoom out, yep, it works. It's like
it works.
Simplified, it's all there. It's probably too high contrast, but maybe if we lower the darker version a bit. But now it's dominating. But we could still bring back that that rim light strength. In fact, you could even choose to make the rim light stronger than the fill light, or I'm sorry, would it be the fill light? Check out 3 key lighting scenarios, and I'm sure you're familiar with photography, knowing your background. So it's like the 3 lights that you're working with. You got the key light, fill light, and rim light. I think it's the key light, what it's called. Anyway, so you could make the rim light the strongest, and that's usually the case for cinematic lighting and all that. But sparingly. Like, I wouldn't put it absolutely everywhere.
Be careful. Be careful.
Right. So if we just kind of compare the two, let's merge that down. So here's the new value setup structure and the previous one. One of them lets us appreciate the focal points, and we can guide the viewer through a rhythm of focal points, whereas this, it's kind of evenly distributed. And we could argue that, you know, if you really squint, you could kind of, you know, see areas that are higher in contrast, but we really want to just bring it home and kind of take the visceral viewing experience. I guess what I'm trying to say is trick the viewer into looking into a place. It's an illusion. It's an optical illusion. So I might just lower the opacity to bring back yours a little bit. So that's lighting.
Yeah, I think I could push it a bit more on the other ones as well. For sure.
Oh yeah. The same thing applies to the others.
Yeah.
Just thinking about material indication. Materials would require like a 2-hour class, so I don't know if I could jump into that. But
yeah, you don't need to jump into a 2-hour class on materials. I can figure that out.
All right.
I'm just getting the base down really, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna redefine them even more and more.
If I had to say anything though, and I had like 2 seconds to crit it or something, you could introduce the idea of chrome better by introducing just one strip of reflection in there, like along
Yeah.
where the highlight is. It implies that there's a horizon or something that's being reflected in there, and keep it sharp, right? And it feels more like reflective that way. Because if we kind of blurred it, it kind of feels more like a core shadow. You don't want that, or you could, but so just small strips of reflection will really help that feeling of reflectivity. Got it?
Yeah. I got that.
Pog.
I got that, Governor.
Any other questions?
Not really. I really like how you explained the large, medium, small, medium, large, medium, small, medium. That really kind of hit home to me. I think I'm gonna make the heads bigger for sure.
Righto.
There's one thing in Photoshop Procreate that Photoshop can't do is when you enlarge something, it becomes really pixelated in Procreate.
Oh.
So I'm gonna have to take it over to Photoshop and do that, and then bring it back. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm not too experienced with like actually exporting things with or resizing things in Procreate. I've only just painted at the default.
Yeah, you should we should definitely explain that to Procreate, see if they can sort that out.
I'm sure they'll be watching.
Really appreciate if they did. I spent a good $10 on Procreate and don't want to spend any more. But yeah, thanks, Ahmed. That
no
was
problem.
amazing.
Totally random crit sesh. All right, gonna sign off on the recording.
Med best teacher?
Who's the best teacher? Whoa.
Oh, it's you.
Nah, dude. There's, I mean, there's like cynics out there.
Accept it.
Accept what?
That you're the
No.
best teacher.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, my ego is like, yeah, duh. But my humility is like, no.
I think Kev's a really good teacher though.
We don't mention his name.
What? Why?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, he's one of the best teachers. Yeah.
Why would you not want to mention his name? Kev's amazing.
Yeah.
And you hated him.